Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I wanted to. I wanted the cacophony to be stopped for me to say good morning, Subodhayasanak Teruval Saranai. So I can say once for everybody after cacophony. So let us begin our metta meditation. May all beings be happy and secure. May all beings have happy minds.
Whatever
Living beings there may be, without exception, weak or strong, long, large, medium, short, subtle or gross, visible or invisible, living near or far, born or coming to birth, may all beings be happy.
minds.
Let no one deceive another, nor despise anyone anywhere. Neither from anger nor ill will should anyone wish harm to another. As a mother would risk her own life to protect her only child, even so towards all living beings, one should cultivate a boundless heart. One should cultivate for all the world a heart of boundless loving friendliness, above, below, and all around, unobstructed, without hate or resentment, whether standing, walking, sitting, lying down, or whenever awake. One should develop this mindfulness. This is called divinely dwelling here, and not falling into erroneous views, but virtuous and endowed with vision, removing desire for sensual pleasures. One comes never again to birth in the womb. With this metta thought, let us begin our meditation. We start focusing our mind on the breathing. Or any meditation should be started from focusing mind on the breath. People may use different subjects for their meditation, but all of them, without exception, should start with the breath as the first step. So let us focus our mind on the first step. When you want to climb a ladder, you have to stand on the ground. So we start on this practice, standing on the mat, on the breath, focusing the mind on the breath. And notice as we breathe in and out, what happens within us, in our mind, body, perception, thought, consciousness, attention. See what happens to them. As we focus mind on the breath, one thing we notice is the breath touching our nostrils, and then the breath moves into the lungs, and then expanding our lungs, chest area, and abdominal area. As we breathe out, abdominal area contracts, chest area contracts, the breath leaves our nostrils. As we repeat this, these activities also are repeated. We don't stay still, we cannot keep the mind fixed, but we can become aware of movements. So as we notice the breath moving in and out, feelings that arise along with the breath also moves along the breath. Then we perceive the breath, we perceive the feelings, and then our perception also moves, changes. Then volitional formations, thoughts, attention also moves. Like if you imagine a compass, when you put the compass on the ground and tiny little movement change the needle of the compass. Similarly, our attention moves from object to object, and we notice that our consciousness also changes. Consciousness doesn't stay still, so our breath, feeling, perceptions, thoughts, consciousness all change as we breathe in and breathe out. They all arise and they all pass away. It is not something that stays there in us that passes away, but something arising and passing away. When we see this true nature of our life, our desire or nature of clinging suspends during that time in the view of rising and falling. And then our body, mind even relaxes more. The feeling relaxes, mind relaxes, body relaxes, breath relaxes, and then feeling of metta arises. Along with that, compassion arises. Our restlessness and worry fades away. This also is important to understand, to relax, to let metta feeling arise in our mind. Then compassion arises. When metta feeling arises, resentment or anger fades away. Then compassion arises, restlessness and worry fades away. And that gives even deeper awareness so that we become more energetic to continue our practice. Then our sleepiness and drowsiness fade away. Seeing all this happening without any exception, we gain confidence in the Dhamma, in this practice, in the results of our practice. We have confidence in the Buddha who introduces the system to us. We have confidence in the Sangha, the community of the Buddha, closest community, Bhikkhu Sangha and Bhikkhuni Sangha, and other Sangha lay community. And we trust them. We trust them because we know that they too are practicing mindfulness from even better standpoint because they understand impermanence more clearly than us. And then we have joy, seeing rising and falling, joy rises, and that joy increases by degree to arouse happiness. When happiness arises, mind becomes more calm, relaxed, peaceful, and then gain concentration. When we gain concentration, we use that concentration to see even deeper spaces of impermanence, deeper moments of impermanence. So I leave you there and let us continue our practice. dukkha pattaca nidukkha bhaya pattaca nibbhaya soka pattaca nisoka hontu sabbe pipanino. May the suffering be free from suffering. May the fear struck be free from fear. May the grieving be free from grief. So too may all beings be. With this metta thought in mind, let us focus on the answers to these questions that Brian is going to ask me.
Okay. First question. I think there's a lot of Pali here. Dear Venerable Bhante, please could you clarify? I am unable to see Apo Dhatu when doing Dhatu Manasikaraya. Tejo, Vayo, and Patavi are seen as rising and falling. Second question. Is seeing Dhatu in meditation is as Vedana in the body, so is it Vedana Nupasana? How would you put Dhatu Manasikara to Paticca Samuppada? Samapudaya.
Okay, let me focus on the first question. Could you repeat the first question again?
I can try, Bhante.
Let me see which is the question.
It's multilingual.
Yeah, okay. Please could you clarify? I am unable to see Apo Dhatu when doing Dhatu Manasikaraya. Tejo Vayu and Pathavi are seen as rising and falling. Okay. Apo Dhatu. You cannot see Apo Dhatu like that. Apo Dhatu is cohesion, putting things together, and flowing, running. When you practice Apo Dhatu, Dhatu Manasikara, you cannot see that way. Only when you sit, when the day is very dry, you can see your Apo Dhatu is not active. It is there, but it is not visible. When you are sweating, when the day is hot, outside humidity is very high, then you suddenly feel Apo Dhatu. When the body heats up, sweat begins to, a drop of sweat are formed, and they try to escape through the sweat pores. Then you will experience like burning sensation because the outside air is full of moisture. That your sweat pores also are filled with moisture. And therefore when inside moisture, trying to escape through the sweat pores, you feel burning sensation because it has to struggle hard to push outside water, humidity out of the sweat pores. That time you will see Apo Dhatu very clearly, you experience it. Otherwise, you cannot notice apo dhatu. That is true. Okay. Then, when you do dhatu manasikara, mindfulness of dhatu or reflection on dhatu, you have to keep this in mind. It is there, but not easy to notice. The body does not hold together if there is no apo dhatu. At least you have to understand inferentially that apo dhatu, though it is not manifesting, not clear, yet it holds this body together. Our flesh, nerves, skin, and all this otherwise will disintegrate and turn into dust. That doesn't happen because of the presence of apo dhatu. Your second question is seeing dhatu in meditation is as Vedana in your body. So is it Vedana Anupasana? How would you put dhatu manasikara to practice to paticca samuppada? That is the third question. You wrote 3 sentences with one question in each. 3 sentences has 3 questions. Second question is seeing dhatu in meditation is as Vedana. Dhatu in meditation like Dhamma dhatu, Vijnana dhatu, Chakku dhatu, all these are dhatus. There are 18 dhatus. 18 dhatus are Chakku dhatu, Rupa dhatu, Chakku Vijnana dhatu, 3. Sota dhatu, Saddha dhatu, Sota Vijnana dhatu. Ghana dhatu, Gandha dhatu, Ghata Ghana Vijnana dhatu. Then Kaya dhatu, Pottabha dhatu, Kaya Vijnana dhatu. Then Mano dhatu, Mano Dhamma dhatu, Mano Vijnana dhatu. Like that, for each faculty there are 3 dhatus. So you have 18 dhatus. Now, in the dhatu manasikara, when we come to that section, we will explain this in detail for now, because in the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, and there is a section where we focus mind on that. So for now, I don't want to dwell upon all this at this moment. It is premature because others are not prepared for that section. You are ahead of it, ahead of others in your reading perhaps, but let us, in a Kaya Anupasana, we will come to Dhatu Manasikara after particular Manasikara. Let me try to answer the next question. How would you put Dhatu Manasikara to Paticca Samuppada? Paticca Samuppada Dhatu also do not arise by themselves. They have to have some other causes and conditions, and due to causes and conditions, dhatu arises. So that much I must say in answering how it relates to Paticca Samuppada. In other words, even dhatu also do not arise by itself, it arises depending on something else. And that also I will explain in detail when we come to Dhatu Manasikara in the Kayanupassana. After I go step by step slowly, I don't want to jump very quickly to one section and spend time on that. What is the next question?
Dear Bante, why is the movement of running not listed as one of the contemplations of body? I think even running can be done mindfully and it follows the five aggregates too. Am I wrong?
You see in the uh, let me get the text for you, then you will understand that I want to keep the text in front of me. Uh, Text says, if you have the text in front of you, you can look at it. Because acts with clear comprehension. When going forward and returning, we have to have a clear comprehension. He acts with clear comprehension. Looking forward and ahead, looking away, he acts with clear comprehension. And when bending and standing or stretching, his limbs, he has clear comprehension. And then when wearing his robes and carrying his outer robe and bowl, this is particularly referring to monks. And then when eating, drinking, consuming food, and tasting, he acted with clear comprehension. When defecating, urinating, he acts with clear comprehension. When walking, standing, sitting, falling asleep, waking up, talking, and keeping silent. Now, this is the list the Buddha has given. Here, you see, walking includes, we can make many tiny little different movements. All of them are not listed here, but we have to use our common sense to include other movements. When Buddha mentioned walking, accelerated walking we call running. When we walk slowly, we walk slowly. We walk at moderate speed. That is called walking. If the speed is high, we accelerate the speed. We call it running. Just like when you drive a vehicle, you say you are driving a vehicle is running. Whether you accelerate it or not, vehicle is running. Similarly, when we walk, whether we walk faster or slower, it is called walking. When we accelerate walking, it is called running. Like that, you can divide one movement into many parts. So, to answer your question, running includes in walking meditation practice. Now, and yes, okay. And Buddha said that in order to include everything else, he said that however, however the person the bhikkhu dwells contemplating the body in the body, whatever else the person can bring into, can include this uh, walking. They are specifically, Buddha mentioned, however his body is disposed, however the body is disposed. So in order to include all of them, Buddha used this word. Okay. Now, uh, what do we do when we walk? How do we gain clear comprehension? Now, including one part to another part and so forth, you can add all of them uh, whenever and however the body is displaced. Uh, but what do we do? That is the most important thing in and how we have a clear comprehension. Day before yesterday, I mentioned 4 types of clear comprehension. So I hope most of you remember them. If not, let me remind you in brief what are the 4 clear comprehensions and how we apply them to our various ways we dispose our body, various ways. Uh, Clear comprehensions are four, 4 clear comprehensions: the purpose, domain, suitability, and non-delusion. These are the 4. Now, Buddha said we have to use these 4 clear comprehensions for whatever the way we dispose our body. Sitting, standing, walking, lying down, eating, drinking, wearing our clothes. Buddha used the word robe, upper robe, sanghati, carrying the alms bowl, patta chivradharane, and then eating, savoring, drinking, even going to answer the call of nature. In all this and any other activity, writing on the paper, reading a book, or singing a song, or having a conversation, you can include, because our entire life is activities, not a static one name. And the Buddha, in Buddhist tradition, in the Buddha's Dhamma, Buddha's teaching, all we see are verbs, not nouns. That much you must remember. Verbs. Verbs means activities. Noun means just fixed, static something. Verb means all movement, activities. In other words, verb means impermanence. So, in all these walking, sitting, standing, and so forth, we see movements. In these movements, we ask the question. Sometimes we can ask, there is a not easy way, it's not easy to find a word for the question. If we ask, who moves? That's a wrong question. What moves? The wrong question. Then what we can say, how the movement takes place. I think that is more appropriate way to put the question. You cannot see who, you cannot see how, you cannot say what. How is also a verb in active sense, not verb in the grammatical language. How? Question mark. The you cannot say I move. I mentioned it. Even now, I use the word I because in order to communicate our ideas, we have to use standard, regular, conventional terms. So I use that. So when we breathe, I ask people not to say I breathe, I inhale, I exhale, I long, inhale long, I inhale short, and so forth. Not use that. We want to get rid of our notion of self. Notion of self. Atta. The Pali word is a very, very important word. It is called Sakkaya Ditti. Sat means is, existing. Kaya means body. Ditti means view. View that body exists. Sat, sat is exist. Kaya means body. Ditti means view. View that body exists. That is the view. In our Vipassana meditation, when we see all verbs, we cannot see the body. We cannot see existing. We cannot see existing because nothing exists. Everything is movement, moving. All we see verbs, not nouns. And when you walk, talk, and so on and so forth, the whole list is given there. When you put these lists, actually these are the things that we do in our everyday life. Many more. These plus many more. Activities, verbs, action, movements. You ask yourself, what is it that is staying, remaining fixed in your entire life? You cannot find anything static. So, when we perform these activities, what we see is something arising and passing away. Passing away, not something existing. Passing away, something that arises, that passes away. Something arises, that passes away. Not something that exists passes away. I have to make it definitely, I have to emphasize these words many times for to avoid confusion, misunderstanding. That means don't expect anything that exists to pass away or disappear or cease. What ceases is what existed. And therefore, in that awareness, that mindfulness, you will see impermanence as well as non-self. Impermanence and non-self. And the dukkha is that does not, you cannot keep something in the way you like it. That means you desire certain things to be in certain way, and since when you see everything is moving, changing activities, the desire also is moving, changing, passing, and yet because of our not knowing or ignorance, we try to hold on to something that does not exist. That is where suffering arises. Suffering also is so subtle. Ordinary we have the whole list of suffering, like getting old is suffering, not to get what one wants is suffering, and to stay, live with someone whom you don't like is suffering, separating from loved. All these are suffering. But the deep down in all this, the deepest level of suffering comes from not being able to hold something static, something the same way, something fixed. When we walk, when we talk, when we move and perform any activities with this body and put this body into any activities, we can see this constant, continuous motion, movement, activities, including the desire, including the ignorance. All these are in the state of flux, moving, changing activities. Uh, when you see, when we walk, and if you take a camera and make a movie, all you see is the bodily movement outside, but you don't record in the camera what is happening inside. You cannot do that. Even if you record the voice of your talk or the sound of your walk, munching of your food, swallowing your food, holding the powerful camera to your stomach to hear the inside food is churning, moving, making grow, 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 grow all the time, digesting food, is not completely complete your understanding of the movement activities. It's always moving uh, visibly, invisibly, perceptibly, non perceptibly. Movements are taking place all the time. Movements. And therefore, uh, Buddha used very clear, very gross activities, very few gross activities as example for us to be mindful. And what other questions are there?
So I'm going to sum up the question because it's a little long. But basically, this person would like to know if the four establishments of mindfulness are a progressive method from that should be practiced from beginner to advanced stage, such as level one or step one Kayanupassana, level two intermediate level Vedananupassana, step three intermediate advanced level Chittanupassana, step four advanced level Dhammanupassana.
Now, I think that those is a good question. It takes a long time to answer. But in brief, I must say, uh, when you keep practicing, you can see all of them are happening in one meditation session. Say you set for half an hour. If your mind is sharp enough, you can see the body not going through all these activities and the section repeating as a list, but the factors mentioned in each section you can understand in one sitting. if the mind is not distracted. You can experience the body, feeling, mind, mental activities, and Dhamma. All you experience once. But uh, in order to train someone, one has to mention first to become aware of the gross object, that is the body. One can see. And then as the person develops the practice, then in that he understands the feeling, but one does not have to wait uh, for long to feel the feeling. All one has to do is to pay attention to the body, and their feeling is there. So in a way they are arranged for a very very the beginner, for the very beginner who has never done any meditation. In order to train the person, they are arranged. So in a way, to that extent you are right. Uh, but it always does not have to be that way when we practice as regular practitioner. We can see this very clearly later on, but unfortunately today I spend more time on one question because it is extremely important question, important teaching. Therefore, I had to spend that time for that. So, so that when you ask questions in future, you will keep this in mind. Now let us wind down this session. We started with metta. We want to continue wishing all beings who are suffering to be free from suffering, and these are all temporary suffering, and try to practice the Dhamma so that they can end their suffering forever. That can bring us to attaining liberation. There are others who are also suffering from losing their loved ones, and I hope they continue to listen to Dhamma, practice Dhamma, understand Dhamma, so that they also can be liberated from suffering forever, attaining Nibbana. Others are also in hospitals having temporary suffering. May they be relieved from that suffering as quickly as possible and return to normal health and continue Dhamma and liberate themselves from samsaric suffering. There are many compassionate doctors and nurses and hospital staffs and other workers, directly or indirectly helping them. May they continue their selfless, compassionate service, and by the power of their own practice, understanding Dhamma, may they also liberate themselves from all samsaric suffering. And others who are generously supporting them in financially, voluntary work and so on, may continue their wonderful, marvelous service and liberate themselves from suffering in samsara. And there are many leaders who have been trying to help people in many ways, and some of them have been even successful to some extent, and may they continue their selfless service to help people and themselves liberate themselves from suffering, samsaric suffering. And there are some other leaders. Uh, every leader is not very successful. Some leaders need more patience, understanding, determination, compassion to make right decision, wise decision, to continue helping people, and may they all attain liberation. Friends, I want to say at the beginning in the morning, I wait until everybody say good morning, Bhante, good morning, Banana, good morning. When so many people say good morning, I also say at the same time, good morning, nobody can hear me because so many voices are there. And therefore I wait when everybody finish, stop, silent, and then I say good morning, Subha Udasana, Teruvan Saranai, whatever. Thank you, Teruvan Saranai.